Hey y'all, today I'm going to show you how to make the best cheesecake. The most easy and foolproof way. Let's get started. First, we need to make our crust. You're going to take 12 sheets of cinnamon graham crackers and crush them up. Use a food processor or do like me and put them in a Ziploc bag and crush them with a meat tenderizer. You're going to also put 2 tablespoons of regular sugar in there and a tablespoon of brown sugar. I like to make them heaping. And then take an 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon and mix this well. Next, you need a whole stick of salted butter. You need to get that melting while you're greasing your springform pan. You just need to put a thin layer on the pan. Make sure you spray the sides. Get it all even. Then we're going to preheat our oven to 325. Now that our butter's melted, we're going to pour it into a graham cracker mixture and then mix it together. It's okay if it looks a little dry. It's going to form together when we pre-bake the crust. And once that's all mixed together, we're going to dump this into our greased springform pan and start to form the crust. Some people like to use their hands, some people like to use cups, some people like to use all kind of other tools, but I have found that it's easiest for me to use my hands. So I try to start with an even layer on the bottom, and then I work my way to the sides, trying to form the side of the crust. I like to use my knuckles for this. And some people like a short crust on the side. I, however, don't. I like the crust to go all the way up the side of the cheesecake. And as you see here, I'm starting to form that side. And yes, it's a little bit difficult, to be honest with you. This is the most difficult part of this recipe, is just forming the crust. And like I said, if it feels a little dry or like it's not going to stick, don't worry, it will. Just keep firmly pressing the graham cracker mixture into the pan, and it will form as you see here. The best tip I can give about making the best cheesecake is taking your time. This is not a race. These are really delicate cakes, and the more you take your time, the better they will be. We're going to take our graham cracker crust and put it in our oven for only 5 minutes. This will be the perfect pre-bake before you put your filling in. Now we're going to move on to our filling. That's 4 blocks of cream cheese, so 32 ounces. And I made sure to lay this out earlier in the day so it got room temperature. That's very important to make sure everything mixes together good. And I just want to also say again, take your time. You're going to set your mixer with the paddle attachment on the lowest setting and do in intervals. So mix a little bit, scrape the sides. Mix a little bit, scrape the sides. And like I said, take your time. You don't want to overmix the cream cheese because then you can incorporate bubbles and this can make your cheesecake crack while it's baking, and we don't want that. If you're having a hard time telling whether your cream cheese is mixed right or not, just after every interval and bowl scrape, just check to see if it looks like thick frosting. You don't want it to be stiff or soupy. That means you've overmixed or undermixed. About this consistency here. Then you're going to add your sugar. I did 1.5 cups, and you're going to want to mix this well, and you'll have to do the same thing you do with the cream cheese just before. You're going to have to mix in intervals and scrape the sides down. Now we're going to move on to our next set of ingredients. You're going to add in 2/3 cup of sour cream. And you don't have to let this sit out to room temperature. It really doesn't make a difference on this ingredient, but the eggs and the cream cheese you do. And then we're going to add 1/8 teaspoon of salt. I like to use sea salt, and I like to use very fine ground. You can use any kind of salt you want, but it needs to be finely ground. Next, we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to mix in short intervals until just combined. Make sure you scrape the sides of the bowl. Now we're going to add in 4 eggs. You want to make sure they're room temperature, and you want to make sure you take your time on this very last step because it's very important. One of the easiest ways to get a cracking cheesecake is to overmix your eggs. And to prevent doing this, we're going to scramble up our eggs one at a time before we put it into the mixture. So you're going to scramble your egg and then pour it into your bowl and mix just until combined, and then repeat that process over until you've used all your eggs. I'm going ahead and getting my other egg ready because this process goes by really fast and you really have to make sure you babysit your mixer because you can easily overmix this when you're at this point. So we're going to mix and scrape the bowl and then add the next egg and then mix again and repeat. When we're finally done doing all that mixing, it's going to come out looking like this. And you see a little bit of bubbles, but don't worry, that's normal. A few bubbles is normal after adding your eggs. So you're going to pour it into your crust like so. And then I'm going to take my spatula and smooth over the top real pretty. Now it's time to put it in our pre-baked oven at 325 between 50 to 60 minutes. Start checking at 50. Some people's ovens run a little bit hotter, so that's why you need to make sure you're checking at 50, but it can be anywhere between 50 to 60 minutes. You're going to know it's done when it jiggles like Jell-O and it's firm on the top like here. After it's done, you're going to want to let it sit for 10 minutes, and then you're going to take a butter knife and run around the edges of the pan and the crust to let the crust release from the pan. And this is very important too, because if you don't do this, as the cheesecake settles down, it can crack if you haven't done this before. And then after you're done releasing the crust, you're going to want to let your cheesecake sit out to get room temperature, about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on how warm your house is. I like to leave mine on the oven because that's the warmest place in the house. If you introduce your cheesecake to too cool air too quickly, it can make that crack as well. So let it sit out and cool, and then stick it in the fridge. Needs to chill in the fridge for at least 5 to 6 hours before serving. It's best overnight. Very important step, so don't skip. It lets the cheesecake get firm. And this is the final result. It was so easy and it looks so pretty. Y'all enjoy. Go like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.